Good morning, everybody. Today, our topic for discussion is magnetic properties of materials. So, firstly, fundamentals of magnetism. Generally, what is a magnet? It is an object made with certain materials which creates magnetic field, like iron, cobalt, nickel, etc. Magnetism is the force of attraction or repulsion of magnetic material due to the arrangements of its atoms, particularly of its electrons. A freely suspended natural magnet will point toward the magnetic north pole. I mean, it points to the uh, yes, north and south directions. Hence, we call the poles as north pole and south pole. And general properties of magnet is if any magnet breaks into two pieces, the remaining, the formed two pieces will behave as two tiny magnets and attracting and repelling forces. The poles of a magnet are called north and south, and thus, unlike poles attract, like poles repel. Okay, what are the lines of magnetic force? The lines, these are the imaginary lines that create a field of force around a magnet are believed to be caused by the way groups of atoms are aligned in the magnetic materials. Okay, magnetic lines of force leave from the North Pole and return to the South Pole of a bar magnet. Magnetic dipole moment or magnetic moment. It is defined as the product of pole strength and the distance between the dipoles. The distance between the dipoles we represent with 2L and magnetic moment mu m equals to m into 2L. And as we know, any current carrying wire produces magnetic field surrounding it. So in such cases, magnetic moment due to a current carrying circular wire of area cross section A equals to mu m equals to I into A, and units for magnetic dipole moment is ampere meter square. Magnetic field intensity or magnetizing force H. Magnetic field intensity at any point in the magnetic field is the force experienced by a unit north pole placed at that point. Units ampere per meter. Now, what is the flux? Magnetic flux is the product of the average magnetic field times the perpendicular area that it penetrates. Or, in simple terms, we can represent the number of field lines passing through any particular area perpendicularly. Okay, we call it as magnetic flux. We represent with phi, and it is the product of B into A. Here, B is called flux density, we call it as. B is nothing but traveling like field lines per unit area. If we consider the weak, then we call it as B flux density. The contribution to magnetic flux for a given area is equal to the area times the component of magnetic field perpendicular to the area for a closed surface. The sum of the magnetic flux is always equal to zero, which is nothing but Gauss's law for magnetism. That means non-existence of monopole. No matter how small the volume, the magnetic sources are always dipole sources. Okay, let us have a look of magnetic flux density B. It is defined as the number of lines of force passing through the unit area perpendicularly. This we represent with units Weber per meter square or Tesla, and notation with B. Intensity of magnetization M. It is nothing but when a material is magnetized, it develops a net magnetic moment. The magnetic moment per unit volume is called intensity of magnetization. Units ampere per meter. Magnetic susceptibility chi. It is the degree of magnetization of a material in response to an applied magnetic field. That means M is directly proportional to applied field H. Okay, here M is the magnetization arranged within the material because of the application of external field H. M equals to chi into H. Here chi we represent it as susceptibility. Permeability, this is an important property for the medium. It indicates the ease with which the material allows the magnetic lines of force to pass through it. It is the measure of the ability of a material to support the formation of a magnetic field with itself. Permeability, the name itself mentions permission. It permits the passing of field lines, magnetic field lines to pass through it. Okay. We represent with mu. Mu equals to mu r into mu naught. Here, mu r equals to relative permeability of the medium, and mu naught permeability of free space or vacuum. Mu naught equals to 4 pi into 10 power minus 7 Henry per meter. SI units, Henry per meter, Newton per ampere square, we can represent in both ways. The magnetic induction and magnetic field intensity are related by V equals to mu naught into H plus M. In vacuum, it is mu naught H. In medium, it is mu H. And B equals to as mu naught into H plus M here. I have taken, let us take the H common out, then 1 plus M by H. We know M by H is nothing but susceptibility chi. So 1 plus chi into H. As B equals to mu H, mu I can represent mu R into mu naught, right? Mu R mu naught equals to mu naught into 1 plus chi into H. So I can equate from these two equations, mu R equals to 1 plus chi, relative permeability. Relative permeability equals to 1 plus susceptibility. Next, origin of magnetic moment. All these atoms, how we are getting the atomic magnetic moment from each atom, that arises from 3 points. One is orbital motion of electron or orbital magnetic moment. Mu orbital, if any electron is revolving around the nucleus in an orbit, it gives, is as electron is a charged particle because it is circulating in a circular path called orbit. The magnetic moment arises from its path equals to minus mu b into L. Here L is the orbital quantum number and mu b equals to, it is the fundamental unit of magnetic moment known as Bohr magnetron. The value of it is 9.27 to 10 power minus 24 ampere per meter squared. It's a constant and equals to ELH by 4 pi m. Formula for it. Next, spin motion of electrons. As we know, the electrons are moving around the nucleus, and along with that, it spins. It also having that it spins around its own axis. Okay, because of that, it contributes spin magnetic moment. Mu spin equals to G into E by 2me into S. Here, S is the spin quantum number, G is the gyromagnetic ratio, which value is a constant, and for every electron the value it is almost approximately 2. Okay, now and here E is the electron charge and me is the mass of the electron. The spin magnetic moment mu s equals to 9 into 10 power minus 24 ampere meter square. Third one is spin motion of nucleus. Because of the spin motion of nucleons, the spin magnetic moment arises equals to mu n equals to E s by 2 mp. And here mp is the proton mass. Okay, nuclear magnetron mu n equals to 5.05 into 10 power minus 27 ampere meter square. So it depends upon the, now the total magnetic moment of any atom is the contribution of these three factors. Okay, and depends upon the magnetic nature of these atoms. We have classified the magnetic materials into 5 groups. They are diamagnetic, para, ferro, antiferro, and ferrimagnetic materials. Let us have a deep discussion like what is each one, like characteristics of each classification. First one, diamagnetism. Diamagnetism characterizes these substances that have only non-magnetic atoms. Here, non-magnetic atoms is nothing but lack of permanent dipole moment. Origin for it is an electron moving around the nucleus results in magnetic moment. Due to different orientations of various orbits of an atom, the net magnetic moment is 0 in diamagnetic materials. When an external field is applied to the motion of electrons in their orbit, it changes the resulting in induced magnetic moment in a direction opposite to the direction of applied field. The magnetization induced by the applied magnetic field is very weak and the magnetic lines of force are repelled. These magnetism is also exist in substances with magnetic atoms, but very weak and completely masked by the contribution of magnetic atoms. Nothing but if any paramagnetic atom or ferromagnetic atom presents there in the nearby in that field, the magnetism is covered or masked by the paramagnetic or ferromagnetic nature. Okay, relative permeability is slightly less than unity. The magnetic susceptibility is independent of applied magnetic field strength, and here V in is lesser than V out. This is how the field lines passes through it. The field lines are repelling from the our sample, diamagnetic sample. Magnitude of susceptibility is small and negative. Temperature dependence is independent. That means whether the temperature of the specimen, diamagnetic material is high or low, the magnetic nature is not going to vary. The order will be the same. Examples: copper, silver, and gold. Paramagnetism. Next one, the paramagnetic substances consists of magnetic atom that possess permanent dipole moment. Origin for it is each electron in an orbit has an orbital magnetic moment and a spin magnetic moment. When the shells are unfilled, there is net magnetic moment. In the absence of the external field, the net moments of the atoms are arranged in random directions because of thermal fluctuations. Hence, there is no magnetization. When external magnetic field is applied, there is a tendency for the dipoles to align within the field direction, giving rise to an induced positive dipole moment. The induced magnetism is the source of paramagnetic behavior. Paramagnetic susceptibility is small and positive and is independent of applied field strength. The spin alignment here is random. If you observe how the spins are aligned here, and with the application of field, the field lines are trying to pass through the material more. Magnitude of susceptibility is small and positive. Temperature dependence, yes, there is a temperature dependence. It is almost inversely proportional. Chi equals to C by T. Q the examples: lithium, tantalum, magnesium, some transition metals. Ferromagnetism, even in the absence of external applied field, some substances exhibit strong magnetization. This is due to a special form of interaction called exchange coupling between adjacent atoms that result in spontaneous magnetization of the substances. When our material, like ferromagnetic material, is placed inside a magnetic field, it attracts the magnetic lines, field lines of very strongly. Each ferromagnetic metal has a characteristic temperature called a ferromagnetic Curie temperature, theta F. Below this temperature, the spontaneous magnetization exists. And above that temperature, what happens? The material behaves as a ferromagnetic material. Spin alignment is parallel to the applied field. Here, if you observe, this is how the spins will be there in the same direction like how we applied the external magnetic field. And if you observe the temperature dependence, it is at the lowest temperature, magnetization is high. With the increasing of temperature, it is going to be reduced. And field lines are also passing through the material more. Ferromagnetic material exhibit hysteresis. They consist of a number of small rings which are called domains. Magnitude of susceptibility, it is very large and positive. That's why we call here as spontaneous magnetization. Temperature dependence is chi equals to C by T minus theta F. Curie's law, it is following. Above theta F, it is a paramagnetic behavior. Below theta F, it is a ferromagnetic material. That means at low temperature, it shows the spontaneous magnetization. Examples: iron, cobalt, nickel, gadolinium, and all, etc. And this is the block diagram for flux lines, how they are passing through a material. This is just the normal material. It is the magnetic material. The field lines are repelled out to pass through the material, whereas paramagnetic, some field lines are passing through it, whereas ferromagnetic, more number of field lines are passing through the material. That means permeability is more. Next, antiferromagnetism. Antiferromagnetism, macroscopically similar to paramagnetism, is a weak form of magnetism. In certain materials, when the distance between the interacting atoms is small, the exchange forces produce a tendency for anti-parallel alignment of electron spins of neighboring atoms. The magnetic susceptibility increases with the increase of temperature and reaches maximum at a certain temperature. This temperature is known as near temperature. Above this temperature, the susceptibility again decreases. That means below Tn, our susceptibility will be in proportion with the temperature. Spins are aligned anti-parallel. Magnetic, this is how the arrangement of spins in antiferromagnetism. Magnitude of susceptibility is small and positive. Temperature dependency is chi equals to C by T plus theta when T is greater than Tn, and chi is almost directly proportional to T when below the needle temperature. So examples: salts or transition metals. Next, ferrimagnetism. This is a special case of antiferromagnetism. The net magnetization of magnetic sublattices is non-zero since antiparallel moments are of different magnitude. That means here some net magnetization will be there. Hence, ferrimagnetic materials possesses a net magnetic moment. This moment disappears above a Curie temperature analogous to the Néel temperature. Above TC, thermal energy randomizes the individual magnetic moment and the material becomes paramagnetic. So below TC, it behaves ferrimagnetic material. Ferrimagnetic domains become magnetic bubbles to act as memory element. Spin alignment in anti-parallel magnetism will be of this fashion, like it is having different magnitudes. Magnitude of susceptibility is very large and positive. Temperature dependence, as temperature dependence is there above Néel temperature. This is the formula, and below the Néel temperature, it behaves as paramagnetic material. And examples are ferrites. And this is the table which represents how the different kinds of parameters are varying for dia and para, ferro, anti-ferro and ferrimagnetic materials. Hysteresis curve. Yeah, as we mentioned, ferrimagnetic materials, ferromagnetic material, not ferromagnetic materials shows the hysteresis behavior. Let us have a look how it is, hysteresis curve is varying. This part we are calling it as initial curve, okay? So when magnetic field is 0 and here the magnetization M, it is y-axis, magnetic field, applied magnetic field is x-axis. So initially when we are applying slowly the magnetic field, how the magnetization is varying, let us have a look. It is slowly increasing, and after reaching some particular value, the magnetization saturates. If we further increase the magnetic field also, magnetization value doesn't change, and the constant is MS, saturation magnetization. There is a maximum magnetization we can get from our material, ferromagnetic material. So from here, let us observe how how it varies if we are decreasing the magnetic field values. So then when we are decreasing the values, this is how the pattern, it does not follow the same path back. So it follows this curve and it reaches when we completely remove the external magnetic field. Here the magnetization in the ferromagnetic material will be some MR, remnant magnetization will be there. We represent that with MR. That means at a 0 magnetic field also some magnetization is like remaining, remnants like persisting there. To remove this magnetization, let us apply the magnetic field in reverse direction. As it is a vector, I am applying in the opposite direction. Then this much field Hc I require to completely erase the magnetization in the ferromagnetic material. So with further in the same direction, if I increase, what happens? It reaches a saturation here in the opposite direction. Now after again, I started removing the field. Applying the field in the reverse direction. When I am removing my field at 0 external field, what happens? Some again remnant magnetization in the negative like y-axis I could observe here. Now I am applying it in the positive direction to remove this remnant magnetization. It reaches here Hc, coercive field. And coercive field is nothing but this much field I need to apply to erase the remnant magnetization from the ferromagnetic material. Now with further increasing the magnetization, it reaches the same MS value, okay? And if I repeat the same thing, it follows this closed path. So this total process we are calling as hysteresis curve, and this initial part, first part, which is not reversible, is called initial curve, okay? And remaining this loop is a reversible. So your hysteresis curve is both reversible and irreversible. Whatever I mentioned, this is the description here, or this is the initial curve. The material follows a non-linear magnetization curve when magnetized from a 0 field value. Okay, once after reaching the saturation, what happens here? The total alignment of domains will be in the same field direction, which gives a saturation magnetization. And coming back to the when driving magnetic field drops to 0, the ferromagnetic material retains a considerable degree of magnetization. This is useful as a magnetic memory device. Okay, we can use the ferromagnetic material for the applications of magnetic memory devices. Here again, we are applying the negative direction, the field. The driving magnetic field must be reversed and increased to a large value to drive the magnetization to zero again. The same process what I explained now with here full description written over. Now, domain theory of ferromagnetism. This hysteresis behavior we can explain with domain theory of ferromagnetism. Okay, we proposed this concept of domain in 1907. What is a domain? Domain is nothing but a space, a region in ferro or antiferro material where all the magnetic moments are aligned in the same direction. We call it as a domain. Ferromagnetic material is divided up into these small regions called domains, each of which is at all times completely magnetized. We observe magnetic domain. This is how all the spins are aligned in the same direction. This is atoms with similar magnetic orientations lines up with neighboring atoms in groups called magnetic domains. Further, this theory explains in the following. If a magnet is broken into two pieces, this domain theory is explained. Each piece will be a magnet with north and south pole. A magnet is heated or roughly handled tends to lose its magnetism. A specimen, when magnetized suddenly, experiences a slight change in its length, which is due to rearrangement of domain inside. This is called magnetostriction. That means when we are magnetizing a material, its length it is varying. We are calling it as magnetostriction. There are two possible ways to align a random domain structure by applying an external field. One is by the motion of domain walls. Another one is by the rotation of domains. Here the domain itself is rotating in the field direction, whereas here the domain walls are with the moving of the domain walls. The domain which is in the field direction, the area of that will be increasing with the applied field. The other domains which are in the other directions, the area of that will be decreasing by the rotation of domain walls, by the moving of domain walls. Next, to study the domain structure clearly, we must know the four types of energy involved in the process of domain growth. Exchange energy. It is also called magnetic energy. It is also called the magnetic energy required to assembling the atomic magnets into a single domain. Okay, exchange energy is nothing but it is the required magnetic energy for assembling the atomic magnets into a single domain. Anisotropy energy, the excess energy required to magnetize a specimen in a particular direction over that required to magnetize it along the easy direction is called the crystalline anisotropy energy. Now, domain wall energy or black wall energy, a thin region that separates adjacent domains magnetized in different directions is called black wall or domain wall. Okay. Now, magnetostriction energy. What is the magnetostriction energy? The energy is required to change in dimension of material when it is magnetized is also known as magnetostriction energy. So physical parameters are varying with the applying of the magnetizing of that material with the application of magnetic field. Okay, last concept. What are the two types of magnetic materials? Hard and soft. Let us have a look of hard magnetic materials. Hard magnetic materials are those which are characterized by large hysteresis loop, because of which they retain a considerable amount of their magnetic energy after the external magnetic field is switched off. This is how the hysteresis curve will be there for the hard magnetic material properties. High remnant magnetization. Remnant magnetization is more high coercivity is needed and high saturation flux density, low initial permeability, high hysteresis energy loss, high permeability, the eddy current loss is low for ceramic type of and large for metallic type. Examples, iron, nickel, aluminum alloys with certain amount of cobalt called alnico alloy. Applications of hard magnetic materials. For production of permanent magnets used in magnetic detectors, microphones, flux meters, voltage regulators, damping devices, and magnetic separators. Especially for permanent magnetic production, we generally use hard magnetic materials. Whereas soft magnetic materials, let us see how the hysteresis loop is. That means here, if you observe, it is having a very small area is enclosed by the hysteresis loop. Soft magnetic materials are those for which the hysteresis loop encloses very small area. There are magnetic materials which cannot be permanently magnetized. In these materials, the domain wall motion occurs easily for properties low remnant magnetization, low coercivity, low hysteresis energy loss, low eddy current loss, high permeability, high susceptibility. Examples, permalloys, alloys of iron and nickel. Applications mainly used in electromagnetic machinery and transformer cores. They are also used in switching circuits, microwave isolators, and matrix storage of computers. That's it. Thank you.